Let the record reflect it is Tuesday, September 29th, 2020 at 6:45 p.m. This meeting is being conducted pursuant to the Governor Pritzker's Disaster Proclamation and Public Act 101-0640, which amends requirements of the Open Meetings Act due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Pursuant to the same, the village board finds that it would be impractical to conduct an in-person meeting with all members present. I would ask at this time that the elected officials confirm they can hear one another. Trustee Berg.
I hear you.
Trustee Brady.
I can hear you.
Trustee Brennan.
I can hear you.
Trustee Galante. Trustee Mueller.
I can hear you.
Mayor Vandenberg. Absent. Clerk Therian.
I can hear you.
All the materials for this meeting are available on the village's website, and we recommend the members and the public follow the agenda as posted. For items with public comment, after members have spoken, I will afford public comment as follows. Once I, the chair of a list of all public commenters, I will call on each person present at the meeting and afford them 6 minutes for their comment. The public was also provided the opportunity to submit a request until noon today by email to the clerk's office at tinleypark.org or by placing their written request in the drop box at Village Hall to participate publicly via a live telephone call at the relevant portion of the public meeting. The public was provided the opportunity to submit written comments until noon today by emailing their public comments at the clerk's office at tinleypark.org or by placing their written comment in the drop box at the Village Hall. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. At this time, let us now begin the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Berg.
Here.
Trustee Brady.
Here.
Trustee Brennan.
Present.
Trustee Galante. Absent. Mayor Pro Tem Glatz.
Here.
Trustee Mueller.
Here.
President Vandenberg. Also absent.
Thank you. May I have a motion for the approval of the agenda as it is written for item number 1?
I'll make that motion.
Do you have a second?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Bill.
You betcha.
Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Berg.
Yes.
Trustee Brady.
Yes.
Trustee Brennan.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Glatz.
Yes.
Trustee Mueller.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 2. Consider approval of the minutes of the special village board meeting held on September 15th, 2020. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mike. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Berg.
Excuse me, Mayor Pro Tem Glatz, my apologies. I have an error in the minutes I just discovered on item 2020-0-50, approving a special use for a planned unit development for Brixmore. The vote recorded is an aye, and I did record a nay, just for reference as to why I'm going to say no at this roll call. Thank you sorry for the interruption.
Thank you, Trustee Berg. If you could, in the future, if you wouldn't mind, could you please send an email to the village manager, the deputy clerk, and the clerk prior to the meeting so they could adjust it for you?
Absolutely. It's my apologies again. As I stated, I just saw it, and I already sent Laura an email about before the committee of the whole. So again, my apologies for interruption. Thank you.
Thanks, Cindy. Item number 3.
Well, hang on.
Wait.
Mayor Pro Tem Glatz,
So-
do we have to amend the motion?
So the roll was called. Did I miss that, or?
No.
Okay. Sorry, I thought the roll was called.
Oh, that's right, she stopped it.
So, but, I'm sorry, trustee Berg, that, you were just stating that, based on, that was why your vote was gonna be no, correct? So I don't think the motion needs to be.
Yes, Attorney Connolly, that's correct.
Okay, so
I'm just explaining why I was a no.
Yeah, we just have to.
It's an oversight.
We just have to.
Correct,
reflect it.
so,
Thank you.
As amended?
there you go, so.
Okay, I'll make the motion as amended.
Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion
Thank
as
you.
amended.
Madam Clerk, could you call the roll again, please?
Yes. Trustee Berg?
For amended minutes?
Yes, for amended minutes, Trustee Berg.
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Brennan?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Glatz?
Yes,
Trustee Mueller?
Yes.
thank you. Item number 3, consider adopting resolution 2020-R-093, recognizing Fire Prevention Week in the Village of Tinley Park. Oh, I'm sorry. Item number 3 is you, Bill. Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to consider adopting Resolution 2020-R-093, recognizing Fire Prevention Week in the Village of Tinley Park from October 4th through October 10th, 2020.
I'd like to second that motion.
Thank you, Bill. Fire Prevention Week is to be held in the Village of Tinley Park beginning October 4th, 2020. All citizens are encouraged to do their share to provide a safe place in which to live and work by limiting those fire hazards which cause the loss of life, property, and resources. Fire Prevention Week is always scheduled to coincide with the anniversary of the Great Chicago Fire of 1871. This resolution is eligible for adoption.
Thanks, Bill. Red's not my favorite color on the print.
Should we ask the chief if he wants anything?
Is there any comments from the board? Laura, are there any comments from the public, either in writing, in person, or telephonically, that you're aware of?
There were not, sir.
Thank you.
Mike, do you want me to read the resolution?
Yeah, go ahead.
A resolution establishing Fire Prevention Week for 2020 in the Village of Tinley Park. Whereas it is the mission of the Tinley Park Fire Department and the Fire Prevention Bureau to prevent loss of life and property from the perils of fire through education, engineering, and enforcement. And whereas with the introduction of new means to construct buildings, new technology to meet today's energy and housing needs, it is imperative for all agencies and individuals to partner together to help prevent fire. And whereas the Village of Tinley Park continues an unprecedented growth in high-risk populations that requires a dramatic and concerted effort to minimize injury, loss of life, and property damage from the perils of fire. And whereas the Tinley Park Fire Prevention Bureau recognizes the challenge to meet the fire safety needs of the changing demographic and more diverse community. And whereas all professional members of the fire service and all other public and social agencies coordinate their efforts to provide coalitions to ensure a successful reduction in the risk of fire. And whereas each village citizen is empowered to provide a safe place in which to live and work by practicing fire prevention principles. And whereas the personnel of the Tinley Park Fire Department and Fire Prevention Bureau are committed to providing public education to the community and to those in need. And whereas on October 8th through October 10th, 1871, the Great Chicago Fire consumed the city of Chicago, where over 300 people died and 17,500 buildings were destroyed. This fire began discussion which resulted in what we know today as fire prevention. And whereas statistically most fires that occur in the home are related to preparing and cooking food, and whereas the 2020 Fire Prevention Week theme, Serve Up Fire Safety in the Kitchen, reminds us all about the basic but essential steps to take to reduce the likelihood of having a fire in our homes due to cooking. And therefore, be it resolved by the President and the Board of Trustees that the week beginning October 4th, 2020, be designated as Fire Prevention Week in Tinley Park, and urge all citizens to join with the coordinated effort of the Tinley Park Fire Department and the Tinley Park Fire Prevention Bureau to provide effective educational related and fire-related prevention programs. Adopted this 29th day of October 2020.
Thank you, Bill.
Before we go any further, I'd like to see you come up. Chief, would you come up and receive this proclamation? Bill, get a picture of that? You go down there, get it. Get in the center.
Why don't you go in the center?
Go in the center. Make it official.
Pat, you want to be in the picture?
Okay. Just for the record, I'd like to mention that my wife read that statistic about the amount of fires that are caused while people are cooking, so that's why we always go out.
You still got it.
Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Roll call for item number 3. Trustee Berg.
Yes.
Trustee Brady.
Yes.
Trustee Brennan.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Glatz.
Yes.
Trustee Mueller.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 4, Clerk Therian.
I'd like to receive the presentation of the Tinley Park Business Spotlight this week. Anytime Fitness and Bailey's Restaurant and Bar.
Who would you like to do first?
Could you introduce Bailey's
Sure.
first? Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Bailey's for everybody.
Ryan, you gonna come up to the mic? Thanks, Ron. Bailey's Bar and Grill, located at 17731 South Oak Park Avenue, offers a full-service food menu as well as fantastic selection of imported and domestic beers, including more than 50 craft beers on tap. They also have one of the largest outdoor patios in downtown Tinley Park. Please join me in welcoming Ron Bailey to spotlight his Tinley business tonight and his wife.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thanks, everyone. A lot of new faces up here since the last time I came in here. All new faces, actually. So if anybody doesn't know me, I'm third generation Tinley Park. My grandparents came here in the 40s. All 4 of my grandparents settled in Tinley Park back in the 40s. We've opened Bailey's 11 and a half years ago. Been very successful. And I want to thank everybody in Tinley for helping us make it successful. If you haven't been to Bailey's, we have live music 3-4 nights a week outside on the patio. Now that it's getting cooler, it's kind of getting less and less, but we're thinking about when we can go back to inside live music. We got heaters on the patio now, so to accommodate people who are still kind of afraid to go inside. We have burger specials. We have one of the best burgers you've ever had. We have a burger special every Monday and every Saturday. You got to come out and try it. But I just want to thank everybody for helping us be successful.
Thanks, Ron.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. It's my pleasure to introduce Anytime Fitness. Anytime Fitness is a new Tinley Park business located at 17823 South 80th Avenue. Anytime Fitness offers supportive staff, state-of-the-art equipment, plus training and coaching services. They can even build customized memberships. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Derek Tucker, owner of Anytime Fitness.
Thanks. Thanks for having me. This is great. I like you picked a restaurant, bar, and fitness place. It's a great choice. So it's been great in Tinley, by the way. This is we have 50 locations in Chicago, 50 or 60, somewhere in there. And we have about 4,500 locations. It's the first time I've talked out loud in a mask, too. This is great. 4,500 locations in 30, we're in every continent, so whatever. People in Chicago, they come to us for convenience, access, but over the last couple of years, we've converted to a coaching facility, so everyone's assigned a coach. You get eVault body scan, nutritional guidelines, and a consult. We've designed a program for you, so whether you're a beginner, advanced athlete, we have something in between for you. It's great. It's 24 hours. You get a key to the door, so everyone gets a key. We're not always staffed, but we operate with 5 state-of-the-art security systems after hours, cameras, 911, necklaces with the buttons that you can push. So it's all state-of-the-art, like you said. Oh, let me see. That's about it. We've been around for 23 years, and we're opening 4 more this next year. My group is here in Chicagoland area, so we should have. Our group has 20, and we're looking for 4 more. So that's about it.
Excellent. Welcome to Tinley Park.
Hey, thanks. Appreciate it.
Is there
I'll
anything
just
you guys
say,
want to add?
you know,
since
thank
were
you for
there?
having Trustee Brady and I out there to see the facilities and give us a tour. They were pristine and clean and really nice looking.
You know, let me touch on that for a second, because I did mean to touch on it. We have an electrostatic system. Everyone's really worried about when they come in. Gyms and restaurants in general have kind of gotten a bad rap during this time, but we bought an electrostatic machine that we're able to spray all the equipment. It lasts up to a week. It's an incredible machine, and a lot of restaurants are using that as well. I know Union next door to me bought one as well. They're doing that. We have antibacterial wipes, so beyond the spray at the front, the wipes are actually antibacterial. My supply guy's like, Derek, no gym is this clean. I'm telling you, you don't need anything else. So I've asked him if there's other stuff I could do, and he said, no, you're going way above and beyond. So our members are pretty happy with that, and I hear that over and over again, that we're definitely a clean facility. So
Absolutely.
appreciate that.
Absolutely. I mean, they sprayed me when I came in.
That was for something else.
That one was much better than your last joke.
Thanks, Mr. Tucker.
Thank
Yep,
you.
Thank you for coming to Tinley.
Item number 5, Trustee Mueller.
I'm going to hand it over to David Niemeyer to give us an update on the Tinley Park Mental Health Center and the discussions with the state of Illinois.
Sure, really a very brief discussion. As the board is aware, in June, there was a bill passed by the General Assembly that authorized $15 million to clean up the mental health center. This was out of the Build Illinois Bond Fund through DCEO. We have been inquiring as to, when and how this money will be released. I do not have an answer for you at this point. And we also are trying to meet with the state on this issue, as well as the purchase of the property. So that's about all I really have to update at this point.
Thank you, Dave. Anyone from the board? No? Okay. Anyone from the public? Ben, you want to speak on the mental health center?
No, I just want to, I gotta talk around.
Oh, okay. Anyone else from the public here to comment? One second now. Laura, is the clock on?
My allergies are horrible. I can't talk and wear this. So, good evening. In June, it was actually the IEPA, on behalf of CMS, had the water tested in Oak Hall that flooded actually just a year and 3 days ago. So just so you know, that's been sitting for a year and 3 days in the building and in the tunnel. That was also the building that had flooded and created what CMS jokingly referred to as the new Tinley Lakes. The study is disturbing, the results, to say the least. I have spoken to an environmental engineer, and he kind of pointed me in the right direction. I've spoken to IEPA, I've spoken to the US EPA. The issue is they have to remove the water. The gist of it that I received was that they would need to get a special permit to discharge into MWRD's system because of the findings of the water results. So there's a number of different laws and criteria that has to be met in order for them to do that. There's also compounds that are discharged into the MWRD wastewater management system that's regulated. The problem is the report was not specific as to the criteria that has to be met. They made it like a little game. I had to pull all this stuff off of MWRD, and it was rather confusing. To summarize it, there are PCBs in the water, a number of herbicides, pesticides such as alpha-chlordane, endosulfane, endrin ketone, gamma BH8, BHC. And there are some other compounds that were detected that normally aren't a huge concern. One of them I'm going to touch on in a minute. What I would ask is, and there's a number of questions that need to be presented to MWRD as well as a report to be filled out. I really would like the village to do that. I think it's going to carry much more weight with them than receiving it from me. I have the information. I can forward all of that to Dave. I've just learned over time that they're going to take you guys more seriously than they are me. I feel like I'm beating my head against a wall at this point. I mean, the amount of phone calls, hundreds. I have made hundreds and hundreds of phone calls, and we're not getting anywhere. But some of the other things, you know, there's lead in the water as well. One of the most disturbing things, the amount of calcium in the water was astronomical. And I kept reading it and looking and thinking, what the heck? Why is there so much calcium? I came up with a theory and actually ran it past 2 environmental engineers who agree with me. Directly, so Oak Hall, if anybody doesn't know, it sits closer to 183rd Street, just to the west of the really big kind of rectangular building there and in front of the circular building. So just about directly behind that going north, and I'm figuring somewhere around 900 feet, 1,000 feet, something along those lines, are the lime waste sludge pits. And I put it to the 2 environmental engineers, and they agreed that that is where the calcium is coming from, which means that the water table is very high and the migration level is very quick. So that moved in a year's time from that pit 1,000 feet south. As far as the PCBs, the leaking transformer is about 200 feet away, so I guess not too surprising that there's PCBs in the waters, which, by the way, is highly, highly dangerous. And I don't know if anybody else has noticed, and it was a fellow resident who brought it up to my attention, and I'm down 183rd Street all the time. All the trees just in front of Oak Hall are now dead. All of them are dead. So if you think about the fact that millions, and by the way, they're talking about discharging 11 million gallons of contaminated water into MWRD's system to be treated at the plant before it's released into Lake Michigan. The fact that a lake was created around the building, guarantee you that's what killed the trees. There's no 2 ways around that. And what's incredibly disturbing is for 24 years there have been 2 open lusts. And the reason those lusts are still open, and if people don't know, it's leaking underground storage tanks. People don't understand that for 24 years they have sat. And the reason they've sat is because CMS, the state of Illinois, never conducted the water mitigation test. They never bothered to do it. And so they have sat open for 24 years. I mean, you think about that, that's outrageous. It's absolutely outrageous. I'm going to run out of time, so I'm going to finish during public comment if that's okay. Because there's not too much more, but there is a bit more.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Item number 6. I'll make a motion to consider the approval of the following consent agenda items. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Bill. Madam Clerk, could you please read the consent agenda items into the record?
Item A, consider request from St. George School, 6700 176th Street, to conduct a Queen of Hearts raffle through October 6, 2021, or until a winner is drawn, with the maximum value of the prize not to exceed $250,000. Winners will be drawn weekly at Sip Wine Bar. Item B, consider payments of outstanding bills in the amount of $2,262,429.06 as listed on the vendor board approval reports dated September 18th and September 25th, 2020.
Thank you, Clerk. Would anyone from the board like to remove any of these items?
No.
No. Madam Clerk, could you call the roll, please?
Roll call for item number 6, consent agenda. Trustee Berg.
Yes.
Trustee Brady.
Yes.
Trustee Brennan.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Glatz.
Yes.
Trustee Mueller.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 7, Trustee Mueller.
I'd like to make a motion to waive first reading and consider adopting ordinance 2020-0-061, approving a special use for a substantial deviation of the Park Place planned unit development with exceptions for property located at 16300 Harlem Avenue, also known as Pete's Fresh Market.
I will second that
One
motion.
sec, I just want to make sure it was Ada. Okay, just want to make sure it was unanimous before you
Yep.
pass it. Thanks, Bill. Go ahead, Mike.
The granting of this request will allow a warehouse distribution use as part of Phase 1. Phase 2 will construct a new Pete's Fresh Market grocery store, associated retail, and renovation of the former Kmart store. The Phase 1 approval was recommended by the Plan Commission with the exception to allow the overnight storage of 5 delivery vehicles parked in the loading dock, conditional upon occupancy of the grocery store by September 1st, 2020. Prohibited 2022, I'm sorry. Prohibited of outdoor storage and planting of street trees prior to Phase 1 occupancy. The Plan Commission held a public hearing on September 17, 2020, and voted 8-0 to recommend approval of the special use and adopt the findings of fact. This item, I waived the first reading as part of my motion, and the ordinance is eligible for adoption tonight. And then, Kimberly, I know we talked about some of the assurances in the contract. Can you talk a little bit more about what we've done with this contract?
Correct. So, as Trustee Mueller had indicated, the intent of this site is to redevelop the property, and it'll be 2 phases. The first phase is what you see in highlighted in yellow, which is the former Kmart, which will then be occupied by Pete's Fresh Market to utilize it for their warehouse distribution. The second phase of this project will comprise the additional construction of a Pete's grocery store, which is about 75,000 square feet, shown there in the darker blue. And then to the left of that, they have another proposed retail space for a future tenant. Then the Kmart former building also has a purple space around it, as you see. That's additional retail or, other uses that will be wrapping around that warehouse use. And that, again, is in Phase 2. The warehouse distribution use is only really permitted in the M1 zoning district. That is why we have to make this request to amend the plan unit development. Particularly, the planned unit development had some other restrictions of uses, and we were considering, when we were talking to the Pete's group, about occupying this temporarily. And if you recall, the village board did earlier this year adopt an amendment to the ordinance to allow a warehouse distribution as a temporary use. But after further discussions, it was recommended that they follow the more permanent solution as what we see here today. And so as this was being vetted at Plan Commission, there was a lot of discussion about this potential warehouse use and just overall how it will function and if there's any impacts. And your report hopefully provides you with enough information, and I feel that was vetted pretty well. But essentially, the ordinance that is before you reviews and considers the warehouse distribution. It's being granted as a condition that the second phase, specifically the grocery store, will be completed by September 1st of 2022. So they're viewing the warehouse more of as an accessory to the grocery store, that is not meant to be the final use out there. So that in the event the grocery store would never come to fruition, this board would have the ability to revoke the special use, allowing the warehouse. So that's the real crux of this ordinance that's in front of you. Again, I think Pete's is vested in this area. We also have a representative, Stephanie Dramonis, here that can speak on behalf of Pete's and their long-term goals. Overall, I think it, is great to see someone investing in this area, and it's obviously been an interesting year for all of us, but I think we've got a good partner here, and I'd love for them to maybe add a few things as well to the village board.
Take this off.
Yeah.
It's okay. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
My name is Stephanie Dramonis. I'm a second-generation owner of Pete's Fresh Market. First, I'd like to just thank the entire, staff, Kimberly and Paula, and then Trustee Mueller and Trustee Glotz has been champions, really helping us through this entire process, through probably all of our, very difficult times. There's a will, there's a way. So I think through the conference calls and just being able to communicate via email or just, helping us champion has been very important to us. We know that grocery stores are, a necessity at this point, and knowing that we have a partner in the village is important to us, and we find it, we're long-term stakeholders. We don't just operate, we own the properties, so it's not just a 10-year lease for us, and if it doesn't work, we leave. We're looking for generations to stay here and be successful. So with that, the best thing about Pete's Market is also the worst thing about Pete's Market. We take a while, it's custom. It's not just a rubber stamp type of model that we just open up a bunch of stores and, it's family-owned, family-operated, and that takes time. I use this often. You can't rush a pregnancy, so things take time to build, especially when you're doing them from scratch. We're heavily invested in the operations. We're heavily invested in our staff, and things take time to root and to develop. And with retail, up for grabs right now, we have to be creative, and that's what we did here. This is a big site, and if we would just put our store here with some retail, it would feel very, very empty. There's not a lot of retailers that are out there with these big boxes, so being able to be creative and using a DC to backfill a lot of that building, which is a large building, and then it would cost us more money to just retrofit it versus just starting from scratch, having a green field, not having to worry about how deep the building is or where it's set on the property. Being parallel with Harlem Avenue, I think will be a better, it'll be better for everybody, for the customers to get in and out, for us to be visible. And I think there's a couple concerns that have been floating around that I'd like to address. One is, what if we just do the warehouse and then we never get a store? Well, I think it's important that, you guys hear it from me that we can put a warehouse anywhere, and it'll be a lot, less expensive, and, we can do it quickly. And I think the best thing about this property is that, one, it doesn't work without a store, and two, it doesn't work without a warehouse. So I think it's a nice coupling. We want to be here as a retailer, not just as a warehouse. I can put a warehouse somewhere else that's not an uphill battle. So because this was a very large property and the building is just in a weird spot, I think the best and highest use for this property was putting a combination between retail and a DC, which we have another model of that on 43rd and Pulaski, which is our corporate office. Fortunately, we outgrew our existing warehouse and we needed more room, especially when perishables became, actually the entire center store, we all know what happened during COVID time. So we went to do a temporary, and we figured we don't really do anything shortcut. Everything for us is do it once and do it right. So we figured, let's not do a temporary, let's go for the final, which is why we pivoted last minute. And then the second concern, I think there was some, competition with other villages. Orland Park, we also had another thing happen during COVID. We own the property 151st and LaGrange. Art Van went bankrupt during this time, and because we are the property owner, we always have a Plan B, which is our anchor of our own store. So we decided that we didn't want to have that property sit idle and be vacant, so we decided to backfill it. But it has nothing to do with this, our commitment and our vision, and Tinley Park's on the board, and we're opening a store there, and you guys have our timelines, you have our commitment, you have our word, and we hope that the community supports us and community is, welcoming, and so far they have been, and the staff has been great, and all of our champions, again, Trustee Glotz and Trustee Mueller, you guys have been great. I appreciate, especially through these unprecedented times, you guys found a way to get us here and through an application, and I know it's been an uphill battle for you guys, especially with the residents not understanding what a DC is internally for us. So again, I'm open to answering any questions or any comments. You guys can grill me. I'm open to it.
For you to be completed by September of '22, you're gonna have to break ground when? June, July?
Yeah, so our commitment,
21.
we're drawing the store now. I mean, we're going through, all the site plan, all the preparation, and drawing the store internally. So we'll go through all of our pre-construction, and then hopefully to have a shovel in the ground, in the spring, and our deadline is June, our internal deadline, along with, the contracts that we have with the village. So if we break ground by June, typically we need about 12 months for construction, and then we usually need about anywhere between 3 months and 4 months to stock and staff. I personally hire every single person, so it's, there's a level of intimacy that we have every single building. My father draws the store, he, picks out every single piece of equipment, so it's not, like I said, it's not just we're gonna take that building that we have a bridge to, we're gonna plot it in Tinley Park. That's not how we operate. We wanna be the neighborhood store, and that requires different things for different neighborhoods. So this being a new building allows us to really have the most efficiencies that we can, that we've learned. We've adopted a lot of old Jewels, old Dominic's, old Kmart's, and we haven't really had very many ground-up developments. I think we've only had 3, this being 4, so it's exciting to be able to really put all the efficiencies we have in place. As, shoppers, they want to get in and out. They don't want to be in the store for 2 hours, especially now with, the concerns of being in public. So that allows us to just start from scratch, which is exciting for us. So yeah, we would start by June. All the pre-construction, we have to get through that, and then we want to be able to capitalize as well on some of the trades. So as we are bringing out, trades for phase 1, we don't want to bring them out again. So anything that we can do to couple and make it once and do it right and do it once is more efficient for us and more efficient for the contractors and more cost effective. So the timeline that Kimberly shared is our internal goal, pending there's no, upset again. Yeah, I'm knock on wood.
Yeah, I much prefer this layout that we discussed.
Yeah, I brought
Instead
it
of-
with, if you want to see it.
Instead of you splitting it with the distribution in the store and the Kmart, I just think this flows
Yeah.
better, but.
I can give this to you, Kimberly, just so you can see it. Having outlets
Oh, yeah.
instead of having this carve out, just because we don't know what kind of tenants are going to be able to fit in those small spots
Mhm.
in the purple.
Anyone else have any questions for?
Yeah, I'll just say, Stephanie, thanks for addressing some of those issues that are floating around out there. I
Yeah.
think this, the village is excited about this project, and, if you think that our staff is great, you're gonna love the resident support too.
Yeah.
So this is,
Looking forward
it's a
to it.
great community, and, everyone's really looking forward to your opening, so.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
That was
Stephanie.
easy, right?
Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys.
Any, are there any comments from the public, Laura?
No, there were not.
None? Okay. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Roll call for item number 7, trustee Berg. Trustee Berg. Trustee Brady.
Yes.
Trustee Brennan.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Glatz.
Yes.
Trustee Mueller.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay.
Item number 8. Trustee Mueller.
I move we consider, I'll make a motion to consider adopting ordinance 2020-0-062, granting a front yard variation for principal structure on a certain property located at 17549 66th Avenue.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Bill. The petitioners, I'm not going to be able to pronounce this, Teva and Holly, are seeking a variation to permit a residential home addition to be constructed with a front yard setback of 25 feet instead of the required 30-foot setback. The request allows for a home addition to be constructed along the same front yard setback as the existing home. The Zoning Board of Approvals had a public hearing on September 10th, 2020, and voted 4-0 to recommend approval of the amended variation request. This ordinance is eligible for adoption tonight.
Thank you, Mike. Any comments from the board? Are there any comments from the public, Laura?
There were not.
Item, thank you. Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
All right. I believe trustee Berg is unavailable because the line has been disconnected, so I will begin with trustee Brady.
Yes.
Trustee Brennan.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Glatz.
Yes.
Trustee Mueller.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 9, trustee Mueller.
I'll make a motion to consider adopting ordinance 2020-0-063, approving a special use for a vocational educational facility, massage school at 18440 Thompson Court.
I'll make the second. Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you. The petitioner, Marilyn Monaco of SAVI Properties LLC, on behalf of Emmanuel Biestas, the new school for massage, is seeking a special use for a vocational educational facility to be located at 18440 Thompson Court, Suite 10, in the Hickory Creeks Plan Unit Development. The Plan Commission held a public hearing on September 17, 2020, voted 8-0 to recommend approval of the special use and adopt the findings of fact. This ordinance is eligible for adoption tonight.
Any comments from the board? Any comments from the public, Laura?
There were not.
Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Roll call for item number 9, trustee Berg.
Yes.
Trustee Brady.
Yes.
Trustee Brennan.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Glatz.
Yes.
Trustee Mueller.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 10.
Muted.
I move we consider adopting Resolution 2020-R-094, approving a modification to an existing contract for professional building review and inspection services with Rick Dandan, DBA Lakeside Consultants.
Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Bill. Go ahead, Mike.
Resolution 2020-R-094 approves a
Unmuted.
modification to an existing professional service contract with Rick Dandan, DBA Lakeside Consultants, to perform building permit review and inspections for the building department. The modification will include plumbing inspections. This resolution is eligible for adoption.
Thank you. Are you muting that background? Thank you. Any comments from the board? Laura, were there any comments?
There were not.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, you please call the roll.
Trustee Berg.
Yes.
Trustee Brady.
Yes.
Trustee Brennan.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Glatz.
Yes.
Trustee Mueller.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Item 11, I'll make a motion to consider adopting Resolution 2020-R-095, approving a settlement agreement between the Village of Tinley Park and Liberty Mutual Insurance Company regarding issues related to the construction of the 80th Avenue train station.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. The village has had a dispute with the bonding company associated with the coverage on the performance bond received in connection with the construction of 80th Avenue train station. Numerous problems were identified related to the contractor's completed work that have required correction. The agreement under this resolution between the village and Liberty Mutual Insurance Company provides the village with a $175,000 settlement as a final payment under the performance bond. The resolution is eligible for adoption. Any comments from the board? Laura, were there any comments from the public?
There were not.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, you please call the roll.
Roll call for item number 11. Trustee Berg.
Yes.
Trustee Brady.
Yes.
Trustee Brennan.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Glatz.
Yes.
Trustee Mueller.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Item 12, Trustee Mueller.
Yes. I move we consider adopting ordinance 2020-0-060, amending the municipal code of the Village of Tinley Park by the addition of Title 11, Chapter 1291, imposing a municipal cannabis retailer's occupation tax.
I'll second that motion.
Go ahead, Mike.
Since the village board approved an ordinance amending the Tinley Park zoning code for the purpose of regulating adult-use cannabis business establishments, 2020-0-038, and also established a business license and associated fee for an adult-use cannabis facility, 2020-0-040, the final step is to pass an ordinance imposing a municipal cannabis retailer's occupation tax. This was previously discussed at a committee of the whole, and the recommendation was to impose the tax in full amount of 3%. Following passage, the village treasurer will file the appropriate documentation with the Illinois Department of Revenue, so the MCROT goes into effect on January 1st, 2021. This ordinance is eligible for adoption tonight.
Thank you. Any comments from the board? Laura, were there any comments?
There were not.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, you please call the roll.
Roll call for item 12. Trustee Berg.
Yes.
Trustee Brady.
Yes.
Trustee Brennan.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Glatz.
Yes.
Trustee Mueller.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Item 13, receive comments from the staff. Dave? you have anything?
Nope.
Pat, you want to say anything? John? Kimberly? No one wants to speak? Brad?
Don't give him an
No?
opportunity.
Okay. Donna, you want to talk about trick or treat? No. Item 14, receive comments from the board.
I'd like to say something.
Go ahead.
Because of our meeting schedule has changed a little bit, I'd like to remind everybody that the month of October is Breast Awareness Month, Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And Officer Gregg, I asked if he would update his uniform to show the patch. Greg, come on down, Vanna, and show the patches available. Where can we get these for people?
They'll be available, I believe they're still available down at the police department.
And the
They should be-
donation is?
There's a $10 suggested donation on that.
Okay, so make sure that everybody gets a chance to get over there and get their breast cancer awareness patch. It certainly is important for us to remember that in this month of October, and of course, anytime throughout the year. But this is the work of the police department, and we support them as well. So thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mayor Pro Tem Gloss, this is Trustee Berg. May I have the floor?
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to inform everyone that items 7 and 8, I was cut off with the 2 Peach gentlemen. So I don't know if they heard the vote or whatever happened, and neither did I. And also, I just wanted to suggest that we postpone the meeting on election night, Tuesday, November 3rd, due to the Village Hall being used as a polling place, instead of canceling the meeting in October for the 6th. Is there been any discussion on that, planning so far?
Well, we have had some discussions. November 3rd, right now, there's a question of whether or not that's going to be a declared holiday, which means we may have to close anyway. But my recommendation would be to cancel on the 3rd. I don't think that should affect the meeting on the 6th, though. I think you should go ahead and cancel November 3rd if the majority of the board wants to do that.
I'm fine with canceling it.
Yep.
You could either move it to the.
Are you sure you won't have too many items on for the second meeting in October then?
I was just gonna say, Dave, if you have too many items, you could always have one on the 10th. Otherwise,
Yeah.
just have them all on the 17th, like Cindy.
Well, I think we were gonna have to have the tax levy, right, Brad? I think probably on the 10th, but, yeah. So we probably, yeah, we'll come up with a plan. But I would definitely say, I would recommend canceling on the 3rd.
I'm fine with supporting Trustee Berg's request to cancel election night.
I agree.
Bill
Agreed.
Brady, are you good with it?
Yes.
Bill Brennan?
Good by me.
Trustee Mueller?
Yes.
Clerk Therian?
Absolutely.
Myself is a yes, and Trustee Berg is a yes. There you go, Dave.
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very good.
Go ahead, Bill.
I just have a question. Pat, I have a question for Pat. It seems very likely that a couple members of the board are sharing confidential information from executive session with a reporter from the Tribune. I've gotten an email based on conversations that we've had in executive session. You know, we have 2 members of the board that have only physically attended 1 board meeting since March 17th. And there's no way that, you know, to know if they're with somebody recording it or if they have someone else on the phone with them. So my question to you would be under OMA rules, after what is going on, I'd like to know if we have to allow board members to participate remotely for executive session, if that's something we can address.
Well, first of all, we're still operating under the temporary rules that, established based on the governor's declaration of an emergency. So, board members are allowed to call into the regular meetings, obviously to count as quorum, and that's really all the OMA talks about. That I remember reading. I haven't looked at it. I don't remember it saying anything specifically about executive session. I can tell you that, the executive session discussions leave executive session. That's, extremely problematic. We've gone through it here and on accusations of that. So obviously, I think as a board, you want to take all steps to make sure that doesn't happen. That, they're ultimately your meetings. But as far as the participation level, again, under the governor's order, at least for public meetings, it's clear. They suspended the regular rules. Absent that recent amendment to the OMA, I think it's possible you guys can discuss that and maybe come up with, your own ordinance. I'd have to look at that a little bit more, but, yeah, I mean, obviously you want things in executive session, so we could look at that, but I don't know off the top of my head if the amended OMA addresses executive session specifically, so we'll have to take a look at that.
Yeah, I think it's, this could be very damaging to us as a village. I think this could, very unethical, I think, but I also think that, with the targeted questions I've got, that it seems that they were trying to target a specific developer, and it just could be very harmful if, it could really hinder Tinley Park's negotiating power going forward for any other deals too. So, this is something I think we should look at.
I'd just like to, if I may, are you done?
Yeah, I'm good.
I'd like to add to that as well. When the sanctity of the executive session is violated, those who are sharing the confidential information, not only are they breaching their fiduciary duty to the village, but they're opening the village and themselves personally to civil liabilities from a developer, only to further their own agenda and putting themselves ahead of very taxpayers they were elected to protect. So certainly the idea of executive session means a lot, and we shouldn't have that violated, and obviously it has been.
Yeah, I agree with all those statements about the sanctity of it, that's why we go into closed meetings.
Right.
That's why the law allows you to discuss certain subjects, away from the public until such a time when they're ready to go public. There's reasons that the village as a whole benefits from those, so I totally agree with that. The governor's order allows, in the regular meetings, I think it's something that we will certainly look at, and how to, move forward with, what we have in the temporary rules and executive session. So we'll take a look at that, absolutely.
Thank you.
Very good. Thanks, Pat.
Thanks, Pat. Trustee Mueller?
Nothing.
Clerk Darian?
Nothing, thank you.
I want to add a couple things. First, I want to add, I was unaware at the last special board meeting we had, which was September 15th. For public comment, I was following the Mayor Vandenberg's protocol with the special board meeting and public comment. I was unaware the village attorney, Paul O'Grady, sent an email to myself and Mr. Niemeyer. It looks like the village is still operating under its temporary meeting rules, which allows written comments to be submitted and circulated amongst the elected officials, or people to call in to make a public comment. The issue of whether the village has to read submitted public comments out during the meeting is pending in front of the PAC, and we haven't had any determination reached. Therefore, I would suggest continuing to follow our rules and not read it out loud. Otherwise, we'd be acting in a manner that's inconsistent with the posture that we have taken previously. So I just want to add that. I didn't see this email beforehand, otherwise I would have read it the night of. Second, I have been working with the Orland Township Bill's Peeps, and they have a emergency assistance program where they help residents in Orland Township with like water bills, utilities, and rent. Dave, I was wondering, can you, I'm gonna see if I can get one of them to possibly come to the next cow. Maybe we could discuss it on the cow and then pass it at the board. And they could explain to us on how these grants that they have set up, how we help our residents in the Orland Township from them. And then maybe afterwards, staff can contact Bremen Township and see if they have any of the same programs, so we could help them as well. And then the same thing for
Rich and Frankfurt
Township.
Yep.
Thank you, Mike. It's a great program, able to help people. I'm glad you brought that here to the board. We help a lot of people there at the township.
Yeah, you guys do. So Dave, I will get that information to you. If you could reach out to them and, get what you need from them for the next cow, that'd be great. And then just to piggyback off of what Bill Squared said on executive session, that's another reason why the clerk's office doesn't allow executive session tapes to be listened to privately. This stuff should not be taken lightly, and there's a reason that the village has created all these rules. Dave, this is to piggyback off of Bill Squirt again. Do you remember, what day and time did Heinzman from the Tribune call you?
Last week you're referring to, that was, Wednesday afternoon around 3:30.
Okay. What did he want to know?
He wanted to know whether the village was going to be holding a special meeting next week.
And the board didn't even receive the draft agenda
We
yet.
had not sent out an agenda.
Were any of his questions discussed publicly?
Well, on that phone call, that was his question, was whether there was.
Okay. Did he speak to anyone else that you're aware of
Yes, he spoke to the mayor too.
on that Wednesday, that same day before the agenda went out?
Yes, the same topic, asking about it.
Okay. So the board, we received our agenda at 4:30. Anyone else you're aware of speak with the reporter before the agenda went out about executive session?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay. What's your thoughts on the line of questioning and this guy's asking you about stuff that's not even public?
It's very disturbing. And again, I think, not to repeat what's been said up here, but, you know, we go into closed session, we follow the law, but there's very good reasons why we talk about these things in closed sessions, the negotiations, things like that. And if that starts, you know, going in public and being in the newspapers, we're definitely, we're hurting the village of Tinley Park, is what we're hurting,
And a developer.
and developers.
So my suggestion is, Dave, I don't know what you think, if this happens again, I think you should reconsider on how you distribute executive session packets to the board. I'd be comfortable with you giving it to us the day of, because this is just absolutely nonsense.
I don't disagree.
I've never heard of this other than one town up north. And I think the mayor was sending everyone different packets to see what would get out. Last thing on what Pat and Bill were discussing about the OMA. I'd like to ask if you could look into that, if that is the case, and especially with, which people will find out shortly because he's gonna, I believe he's gonna write an article on it. I think the next executive session, if you're not here, I don't believe we should be allowing remotely, if legally we can, just for executive session, not for the regular board meeting. It's appalling on the questions that this guy's asking, that it's not even public. But obviously run that through the attorneys and see if what Bill was asking, if it's true, but I think we should start that on October 20th is our next meeting?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Item number 15, receive comments from the public. Laura, are there any comments from the public, either in writing, in person, or telephonically?
No, there were not.
Go ahead, Nancy.
Sequel.
If you could hold 1 second, Nance. Are you ready with the clock? And then just what you're going to discuss, but just so you know, it's a special board meeting, so please keep it germane to the agenda items.
Right, I'm just finishing up the Tinley Park
Okay.
Mental Health
Just
Center
want to make
stuff.
sure.
But
Thank
can
you.
I ask a question, since you addressed something about the executive session? Can I ask a question about that?
You have to ask Pat.
Can I ask that, Pat?
It's not technically on the agenda, but if the board will entertain it.
Well, it's all I really want to ask is for you to repeat the name of the reporter. I couldn't hear it.
David Heinzman, is that the right name?
You don't need to say any more than that.
Okay.
Okay, that's enough said. You say that. So back to the mental health center. So I believe I ended with all of the dead trees in front of Oak Hall. I really would suggest that some of you drive by. I know you're not supposed to go onto the property, but go take a look. It's really disturbing to to go by there, and all of a sudden, there's probably 5 or 6 right there that are all dead. So as I stated before, CMS has to obtain a special discharge permit from MWRD prior to the release of the water that has been in the building for over a year. But keep in mind that no permits were obtained by CMS to pump the water that flooded outside of Oak Hall, that poured out of the building and created, as they stated, new Tinley Lakes. It starts to become a really complicated process when you start looking at the Federal Clean Water Act, is the way it was put to me. There's a lot of crisscross laws, and but it is something that needs to be looked at. So if the village would take the lead on it and, fill out these forms, send it to MWRD, I think you might be able to get the answers faster than I can. Because I think they all know who I am, and it takes forever to get anything back from any of them at this point. And which leads me to, we're obviously dealing with a clear conflict of interest with a state agency policing another state agency. We're not going to get a fair shake. They are going to be given, CMS is going to be given every advantage possible because IEPA is just another state agency. It's impossible to do this properly, for IEPA to do this properly. I've said this before, the Tinley Park Mental Health Center or a private entity, the state of Illinois and IEPA would be issuing massive fines and have dragged them into court already to clean up that property. One of the biggest concerns of both of the environmental engineers was that they truly feel that the property needs to be fenced because it is not a secure facility. They need to fence it in order to stop people from coming onto the property and causing further damage. This isn't a great thought, but especially in light of all the civil unrest occurring throughout our country right now, the Tinley Park Mental Health Center would be a very, very easy target for someone. A fire, an explosion, a chemical release would not only be harmful to Tinley Park, but it would be hazardous to all of our neighboring communities as well. And unfortunately, some people aren't heeding the warnings and the obvious dangers of the property. I actually had spoken to a number of you that this past February, I shared the information that I was driving down 183rd Street. It was about 10 o'clock at night, and I saw 4 to 5 people walk off the property and cross the street. They're still entering the property. It's incredibly dangerous for anyone to be on that property. As a matter of fact, as recently as June of this year, a number of young adults were arrested for criminal trespass and criminal damage to the property. The longer this is left unsecure, the more probability or the higher probability that there will be something catastrophic that happens. We need to be able to stop the criminal acts and stop anyone from going onto the property. I'm sure many of you have I've seen that, the Chicago Tribune, the Chicago Police Department does a great job in putting out, looking for the people who have looted and caused incredible damage in downtown Chicago by putting their photos out. I just read the article, they've gotten over 400 tips, and they have now arrested 74 people for felony looting that I think probably all of us have witnessed. I'm sure nobody wants their picture in the paper when they're wanted for something. But maybe that's what we need to do. Maybe we need to, those people that are caught on the site and arrested, maybe we need to put their mugshot in the paper and let our fellow residents know exactly who this is that is breaking onto the property, who's causing more criminal damage, who's putting us all at risk because they think it's a joke, because they think it's fun to go on this property. Maybe it'll help to be a deterrent. I really think we need to take this into consideration and put it out there. I'm hoping it's no one in the village, but you know what, at this point, I don't care. Enough of this. They're not just going on there and possibly harming themselves, but they're putting all of us that live in this village at risk. And I think I think it needs to be addressed. Putting a fence up would be great. I've been trying to find the, the agency that can enforce that. I've yet to find that, but at the very least, as a deterrent, anybody arrested on that site, put their picture in the newspaper and let everybody know in Tinley Park just who they are.
Thank you. I just have
Thanks.
one question. Could you just give me a yes or no, please?
Mhm.
With your conversations with the US EPA and the Illinois EPA, has there been any talk about them or any of these reports about them testing any wells in the area?
I was speaking to the US EPA about that today. And I did also bring that up to IEPA, which I think I talked to him last Friday. Yeah, it's a huge issue. That's why the lusts are still open, is because they never tested the water mitigation. They never tested any of that. I did say to them that there are homes across, east of Harlem Avenue that are on a well system. US EPA's reaction was, what?
All right, thank you.
So, yeah, it's an issue. Actually, those people should all have their wells tested.
Thanks. Dave, whenever you receive that information from Ms. O'Connor, could you please forward that to our environmental attorney and see if we can get something to the state and then inquire about that with our residents that are on a well near that place?
Yes.
Thank you.
Certainly,
I'm sorry, what, Brad?
I said those residences that are still on a well would be unincorporated.
Sure, but they're still, they still should be
They still should be aware.
checked by the state if possible, especially with it moving so quick and the water table being so high.
and certainly if I could just add to it, what you said about a fire hazard, whatever, kids nowadays, it's getting cool out, they may have their own fire pit out there. God knows what could happen after that.
Okay. Sir, would you like to make a public comment? Sir, thank you. Item 16. Can I have a motion to adjourn to executive session to discuss A, litigation when an action against affecting or on behalf of a particular public body has been filled and is filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the public body finds that an action is probable or imminent, in which the case for the basis for the finding shall be recorded and entered into the minutes of the closed meeting. B, the purpose or lease of real property for the use of the public body, including meetings held for the purpose of discussing whether a particular parcel should be acquired.
So moved?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Clerk Therian, could you call the roll?
Roll call for motion to adjourn. Trustee Berg.
Yes.
Trustee Brady.
Yes.
Trustee Brennan.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Glatz.
Yes.
Trustee Mueller.
Yes.
Motion carries. We will be adjourning to executive session at 7:58 PM. This will end our public meeting this evening, and there will be nothing to follow. Thank you, everybody.